Hey, good morning. Welcome in and welcome back, everybody. It is Laura here. I'm a twin flame coach, twin flame guide, twin flame astrologer, and twin flame reader. And we're going to break down the culminating transits today for the twin flame collective. We have two culminating, perfecting transits today. The first one with the sun in a trine to Pluto in retrograde. And the second transit that is culminating is the Mars square Pluto retrograde energy. So these have been building, and I do find it interesting that the sun is at play today because there is illumination at play. These are the last perfecting, culminating transits until October the 1st, when we have Mercury in a square to Jupiter. And so we are building up to these culminating energies today. There's the bubble bursting today, and then we're going to need some downtime, I want to say, to recuperate. And so this is the last big energy playing out the week after the eclipse portal. And so let's break this down for the Twin Flame Collective. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button down below. I'd love to have you join the YouTube family here on the channel, but let's break them down individually. Then we will go deeper in with some oracle and some tarot messages. So let's talk about these energies today. All right, let's break down this first transit between the sun in a trine to Pluto retrograde. We do see the sun sitting here in the 3rd house, and we have Pluto sitting in the 7th house. And so we've got that Virgo underlay of energies once again, because the 3rd house is sitting in Virgo at 13 degrees, orb 4. There is this death quality connected to the Emperor or the divine masculine collective. And we also see Pluto sitting here in the 7th house. Pluto, once again, is retrograde. I have to mention that, but we have the 7th house in Capricorn with this Capricorn underlay at 29 degrees. And so the completion of a karmic relationship cycle. And so with the sun in the 3rd house, it is shining a light on a close-knit community, whether it's siblings or like a social group that you consider family. This is also going to highlight communication issues and thought patterns and the way we exchange information within our community, like within our family structure. And the Virgo influence is asking us to focus on discernment, to kind of sort out the truth from all of the lies. And with Pluto retrograde in the 7th house, with that 29th degree and heretic degree and the Capricorn undertone here, there is a very heavy karmic weight. And I do feel this is connected to the whole Pluto energy as it transited through Capricorn. So Pluto's going to be in Aquarius for about the next 20 years. So if you can look back to the last 15 or even 16 years, there is a karmic relationship cycle here closing out this Pluto retrograde. And because Pluto is retrograde, this to me is indicating like a deep internalized transformation happening, especially when it comes to partnerships, because the 7th house is the house of partnerships. What I see here is power and control issues. I feel we've got some cardinal placements coming through. So Cancer, Capricorn is going to be deeply affected. Of course, Libra, Aries access, because we do still have the sun in the opposition to Neptune. And so there's a lot of deep diving into these subconscious beliefs, into these spiritual philosophies as well. And so I do feel, expect a karmic power struggle here, especially connected to control issues. This transit is really trying to unmask manipulation within relationships. And usually a trine is a very flowing, easy energy. But because Pluto is involved in this opening of this information, the truth will set you free. But we do have to kind of face where we have been denying a specific truth within a one-on-one partnership. And so I feel very strongly with the Magician reversed, Ace of Wands reversed archetypes with both of these transits. It is showing a misuse of power, manipulation, and deceptive communication. And this is really like a false start or a blocking of a union energy. And I feel there's somebody here trying to use desire or sexual energy to kind of manipulate a relationship here. And so there's going to be truth connected to manipulation in partnerships. And this could be revealed through words, actions, messages, communication. Somebody's mask could just absolutely slip. which could show where they've been blocking an opportunity for twin flame union. So I do feel the divine masculine is coming into, I feel, a power struggle within a karmic relationship. And it's going to really expose the manipulations that he's been entangled in, especially connected to a family or a social group that's considered to be family. And this is the energy of everybody's mask slipping, is what I feel. And whatever he's tried to control in a relationship, it just can't stay hidden anymore. And so divine feminine, I think this energy today is really sharpening your discernment, where you're seeing through half-truths and you're seeing through people's manipulations. You're seeing through projections from other people. And so this is about truth. This is about exposure of false energy, false soul contracts, in order to bridge the gap of this communication between the counterparts. And so I feel there's a lot of karmic dynamics surfacing, and these deceptive promises are going to be very, very loud, because all of this has to come to light before we can move forward and really get rooted in authenticity and in these divine unions. 444 on the timer as I'm recording this portion. So enough about this transit. We're going to move on to the Mars in Scorpio. So let's pull that up on the screen and let's talk about Mars in Scorpio square Pluto retrograde. All right, let's talk about this second transit that is culminating today, because this is the trigger point, I want to say. We see Mars in Scorpio sitting inside the cusp of the first house. We have that Libra undertone of energy. We also have the moon there, almost exactly conjunct Mars at the time of the culminating transit to the square with Pluto. So that is significant, because this is drudging up some deep, dark shadow work for sure. We also have Mercury and the anti-vertex sitting in the first house. And so I do want to mention, this is the first Mars square Pluto retrograde transit. We are going to have a second culminating transit between Mars in a square to Pluto retrograde. The second one happening in the spring on May 26, 2026, between Taurus and Aquarius. And so I do feel we are significantly working with the Taurus Scorpio axis when it comes to these Mars squares with Pluto retrograde. So look to those axes within your housing sign of your birth chart. Look to the Taurus Scorpio axis and then the Pluto house, because this is where it is kind of drudging up the shadow work. But first, let's talk about Mars in Scorpio in the first house being Libra rising. Mars in Scorpio, first off, is so deeply intense. It's passionate. It's also very strategic, right? You think of a scorpion, it stings when the time is right. The first house is self-expression. It's our identity. It's how we protect ourselves too. And so there is a magnetic quality, I want to say, to Mars sitting in the first house of Libra. Libra is the mirror energy. And so there's a challenge here for sure. Oftentimes with Mars in the first house, it can indicate an assertion of self with emotional intensity, right? Or this deep need for personal transformation. When it comes to the twin flame context with this square playing out today, let's face it, twin flame experiences, they are intense, they are fated, and oftentimes it can create like turbulence, right? In order to get us to go through this very profound emotional growth. And we do go through the growth in order to get to the union. And so there is a strong drive with this square transit today, pushing for emotional truth, emotional honesty. There's another layer, I want to say, of spiritual awakening and uncovering hidden truths about self, because this is happening in the first house, and about the counterpart. And so there's a lot of shadow tendencies coming up with Mars and Scorpio that we're working through. Jealousy, control issues, holding on to the power struggles, particularly when it comes to these deep, intimate soul connections. With Mars sitting in the first house, there is manifestation of how we assert ourselves in this connection. And with Mars in a square to Pluto retrograde in the fourth house, we've got the Capricorn energy once again as an undertone connected to the fourth house. And so there's deep transformation connected to these deep, deep karmic patterns, then they are coming up for review. And so I feel there's an emphasis on collective themes here connected to freedom, individuality, and this progressive thinking, especially with Uranus now in Gemini. But there's something here deeply personal happening, I feel, for the twins. Where can we transform how we relate to this inner emotional foundation? We're rebirthing the inner emotional foundation. The fourth house is all about home. It's about our roots. It's about our family, our ancestry, where we had emotional security or lacked emotional security. And so there is a deep emotional undercurrent here where Pluto is activating these family dynamics to be transformed. And this is connected to our early childhood emotional programming, okay? And so the fourth house shapes how we connect in intimate relationships. And with the Mars square Pluto energy, this is high intensity. This is challenging. This is tension. This is a very transformative aspect playing out, but it's going to happen through power struggles. It's going to happen in intimate family dynamics. And so we are all being pushed to break free from our emotional and our family conditioning. Anything that restricts us from stepping into our personal autonomy or our authenticity. And this is always going to be connected to relationship patterns connected to the fourth house. And so there's going to be like a catalytic event that is going to force us to confront our shadow aspects of anger, desire, control, right? Because Pluto is all about power and control, maybe connected to the home or connected to the family, or just your emotional world, right? Your inner world. And so this is a major karmic clearing energy. I do feel there's going to be confrontations, likely on the home front, or an intense dynamic at play here. It could be with a twin flame mirror or just a mirror of some old family or karmic patterns. And the twins do come to clear the lineage and the family patterns. And so there's transformation here, but it's going to come through a lot of uneasy tension, okay? Mars wants direct action, but with Mars in Scorpio, there's a lot of inner depth, and a water sign doesn't really take direct action. In the shadow aspect, Mars in Scorpio can be very manipulative, I do have to say. And so there's a need to confront the shadow aspects in order to clear the path for that soul-aligned connection. And so there's going to be triggers. There's going to be unconscious fears being triggered to the surface, connected to power and control issues. And we do have to choose to navigate this consciously, right? When we are consciously aware of the triggers, then we can step into empowerment, right? And it's profound when we navigate triggers consciously. And so there's going to be an activation today, I feel, of deep karmic patterns that have to ultimately be released. These are personal patterns. These are familial patterns. And all of this has to be dealt with, brought to the surface before we can stabilize any type of divine counterpart union. And so the universe basically is orchestrating this cleansing by fire. And Mars is pushing us to stand up for ourselves, right? And Pluto is saying nothing superficial can remain after this aspect, right? And so things are going to feel very volatile today. And if you're not in connection with your counterpart, this could be played out in other dynamics, or this could just be something that you're dealing with internally when it comes to a realization. And so all of these energies post-eclipse are basically here to help us break down all of these illusions. And with Uranus in the 8th house, there's going to be a sudden ending. I feel a sudden ending. And so this energy is not easy. This energy is not casual. It is very karmically charged. And growth comes through embracing challenges, embracing our emotional intensity. We have to embrace the shadow work. We can't spiritually bypass. We have to go into these conscious confrontations and face the power dynamics and really look at our own inner emotional landscape and where we keep repeating these family patterns. Because once again, those archetypes of the Magician reversed, the Ace of Wands reversed is very heavy here. So I don't know if someone's pretending to have power or pretending to have mastery over the journey that they don't really have. But there's like a reversal of words, a reversal of contracts, and there's going to be exposure of misused intentions. And so I feel there's a lot of manipulation, a lot of desirable manipulation, especially in relationships, false relationships, where the passion is kind of failing. And so I feel the universe is like really pulling back the curtain with this transit today. If it's not real, it's not going to be able to move forward after we're through these eclipse clearings. And so the Sun trine Pluto is all about revealing truth connected to manipulation and partnerships, especially where we use communication to control people. And the Mars Pluto square, I feel, is going to force these truths. And so there's going to likely be a confrontation around money, around worth, around power struggles, in order to strip down all of these illusions of control, because we're not in control of anything but ourselves. We can't control another person. We can't control an outcome. The universe is ultimately in control. And these stripping away of illusions are going to show us where people have held on to false power. This is like a forced cosmic reset. And so we're kind of in this takeaway of spiritual surgery happening. And I just feel whatever's been hidden is going to be coming to light with these energies. So we can reclaim our power. We can reclaim our resources, our self-worth, because we don't want to hand them over to manipulative forces anymore. And so Divine Feminine, I feel this transit today, both of these transits are helping to activate your self-worth. You're being called to stand firm in who you are, to reclaim back your power, I feel. And do not allow your value to be dictated by any external karmic interference or family belief systems, okay? The Divine Masculine, all of this energy, I feel, is pointing to the 4th house, to a false family or deep karmic roots. Ancestral karma, I feel, is at play for the masculine today. These deep karmic patterns around control, obligation is another big one, I feel, obligation, and survival. Survival patterns are being triggered for the masculine today. And so he might be experiencing financial tension. I know that did come through in the cards in yesterday's reading. And there's going to be a conflict, I feel, with a karmic partner. And it could be a romantic partner. It could be a mother. It could be somebody kind of portraying the mother. It could be a business partnership. But there's a lot of instability, I feel, in the masculine's world because of all of this avoidance. And so I feel there's a lot being reflected to the masculine connected to the karmic web that he's woven, the false promises, the manipulation, the blocked passion, and where he thought he probably had control over that karmic situation, but Spirit's like, no more, the curtain's getting peeled back. And you're really just seeing through illusion, I feel, Divine Feminine. And everything is going to be exposed for what it is, I feel. So just kind of sit back, because you're kind of feeling anything that's not authentic. Somebody's not ready or something's not aligned. You're kind of seeing through all of that. So yeah, I just feel you are being pressed to reclaim your value. So these energies really are clearing out everything false. So the twin flame connection can reset on this higher timeline, in this higher truth, in this higher worth. So let's dig in a little bit further with some oracle and some tarot messages. If you are new to the channel or new to astrology and you are curious to learn a little bit more about your birth chart, I do have a downloadable free guide. It's a PDF guide, comment free guide down below, and I will send you the guide, and it can help you understand the basics of your birth chart to maybe follow along with the astrology portion of these readings a little bit better. But let's see what the cards have to say today. break down these cards today, okay? The first card out was the butterfly card. And so butterflies do signify transformation. It does say beauty on the card. It is a 25 card. And so there is a Knight of Wands undertone connected to the butterfly. So a couple of messages are coming through. I do feel the masculine is being magnetically drawn towards the feminine, almost like this energy of act now, take action, immediate action. And I also feel the masculine itself is going through a massive transformation in these energies. We move from the butterfly card to the cat. I'm a cat lover personally, although I have a dog and 2 cats. Cats represent fierce independence. I do feel a connection to Lyra star seed origin, and this is actually speaking of healthy boundaries. Because it is an 18 card, there is a moon quality to the undertone of the cat card, and so there is a need for boundaries, especially when it comes to manipulation. I also feel a little bit of fear about taking action towards the divine feminine, and then we get the letting go. And so there's the release, there's the purge. It is also a 44 card, which is connected to the 4 of Pentacles in the tarot. And so we all know what the 4 of Pentacles represents. It represents holding on, it represents hoarding, it represents withholding. And so there is a release, and it does feel like a release of emotions. And I also feel a little bit of an Aquarian undertone connected to the Pluto retrograde energies with today's transit. And I also feel it definitely feels like fall, and we are in the season of fall. And so the bottom of the deck is speaking of joy. I feel a King of Cups energy trying to emerge from the forest, trying to kind of step back into owning their vitality. And so a lot of the masculines can be so rigid in their old beliefs and in their old patterns. And I do feel that's really what restricts them from walking the path and going towards this sacred union. And so I also feel this undertone of this sacred journey, like the marking of a new sacred journey and overcoming the fear. And so I do feel with that fear of going towards the feminine, maybe because the feminine is looking very independent, holding firm in her boundaries, there is fear. I also feel fear of walking away because we have to leave the old cycle behind before stepping into the new. And so there's an 8 of Cups quality here. When we get to the 8 of Cups, we do have to leave behind the confusion, the procrastination, the illusions. And we are headed towards wish fulfillment, but we have to walk away from something first. And so I do feel there's a lot of thought process. There's a lot of analysis going on in the energies, a lot of intellectual analysis, logical analysis connected to the divine masculine. So let's break down the tarot messages, because the top row, we got the 9 of Cups. We did get the Wheel reversed and the Magician reversed. So there's that manipulation. There's the manipulation through communication coming through. We get Gemini, Virgo. We get Jupiter energy coming through with the Wheel of Fortune in reversed. And we do have Jupiter in Cancer. And Jupiter in Cancer is in the sign of exaltation. But we do have to face the challenges first. And so there could be challenges with addiction here, because we do see another link to Jupiter and Pisces. And so I do feel Pisces can represent addictions and the dissolving of boundaries. And so oftentimes we will mask the awakening or the pain through overindulgence. And so maybe somebody here has gone a little bit too far with indulgent behaviors. And the Wheel reverse is saying something is coming to a stop. This is that stuck energy. This is the stagnant energy. This is somebody basically keeping their foot stuck in the wheel, refusing to move forward. And there could be some self-sabotaging behaviors here, but ultimately there is an imbalance here within relationships. And so what you're giving out isn't coming back in return, or vice versa. And so we see the Moon in Taurus energy, and Moon in Taurus is really hard to satisfy when it comes to structure and stability. And so there is like the 6-6 energy. We get the 6-6 energy. And so I did channel when it comes to that 9-9 portal a little while back. that something was closing out connected to the 666 portal back in, I believe it was 2022. We had the 666 portal. So there has probably been some type of an addiction here, the masculine struggling with an addiction connected to the 666 portal. And the central energy today is the Lovers card upright, which is a choice. The Lovers does represent a choice. The Lovers upright is a divine spiritual connection, a deep spiritual union. And then beside the Lovers, we did get the Empress in reverse, and she's right below that Magician in reverse. And so this does represent a karmic feminine energy, or a feminine that doesn't know her worth, doesn't know her value. This could be somebody that is extremely codependent. This could be somebody that is a master manipulator, but this is also healing the distorted feminine collective, because below the Empress in reverse, we did get the Star. And the Star does represent hope. It does represent healing. And so the feminine in the connection does have to step into her worth and her value. And that does create the shift. And so we do have Gemini energy. And Uranus is bringing in the shakeup, is bringing in the surprise connected to the twin flames. We see the 4 candles burning. So there's that Ace of Wands in reverse archetype that I channeled with the astrology. This is the false start. This could be the lack of passion due to addictions. And then we get the manipulation card out with the 5 of Swords in reverse. And so this is the moment of truth. This is the exposure of the lies, the communication manipulation, and then we're going right into healing. And oftentimes when I talk about an Empress in reverse, somebody, a feminine that doesn't know her worth or her value, she will manipulate to try and hold on to a situation, because there could be fear of abandonment, fear of rejection, fear of being alone. This is somebody that doesn't know how to be alone, that doesn't know their worth and their value. And so we are healing the karmic feminine energy as well within the collective. And so the bottom of the deck was actually pretty telling today in the energies. With the 8 of Cups in reverse, this is the clinging, this is the holding on, this is the I don't want to move on, right? I'm going to hold on to this even though it's keeping me stuck, it's keeping me blocked from moving forward. But Saturn retrograde is saying we have to strip away all of these illusions. We do have to release the clinging to something that is basically not serving our highest path. And there's the sleeping on the truth. And so there's so much resistance to an ending is really what this is telling me, because of a false foundation that was built on materialism or a false sense of security with the 10 of Pentacles in reverse. This is also legacy. This is also the ancestral karma that we're here to reverse. And I just feel somebody is so stuck over what is lost, they can't see the path forward. And so clinging to something that needs to be released. The 6 of Swords upright is moving beyond the grief, moving beyond the challenges, moving beyond the manipulative patterns, but yet there's still a clinging to the old structure here. There's still a holding on and wanting to go back, but there's masks here. I do feel there's the mask of everything's okay because of some type of an addiction coming through. But then the illumination, right? The Sun in Libra is coming to illuminate these communication patterns, coming to illuminate the truth. And so dig a little bit deeper. The Page of Swords is saying dig a little bit deeper, do some more research. This is be open to learning something new, be open to a new perspective, be open to a new thought pattern. And then the last card out I stopped at was the King of Wands. And so that's interesting, because I felt the transformation card here with the butterfly connected to a Knight of Wands, perhaps progressing or spiritually maturing. And then I did stop at this King of Wands upright, and below him we do have the Hanged Man to the 7 of Cups, which is illusions, confusion, procrastination. And we do see Scorpio energy coming through. We have Pisces energy. And then we have the World reversed. And so the masculine collective is really needing to look at the negative repetitive patterns that they keep repeating, and to stop investing in things that are no longer serving them. And so there could be a masculine here that is perhaps facing a job loss, or is choosing no longer to stay in a certain career path. And this is going to open up the doorway to twin flame union. But there is a need to kind of let go of The rigidity is what this is telling me. And so there is a choice here in love. So let's take a look at the lovers, because I do feel there is an unexpected choice in love here. And so we did get the Knight of Cups in reversed. Discernment. I heard the word discernment. We get the Two of Cups upright, and we get the Hermit. So I feel this is like the test. Have you learned your lesson? Have you learned the lesson of discernment? Have you learned the lesson of false promises in love? Letting go of the people that speak all of these words of love but don't have any staying power. This is the Love Bomber card in reverse. And then there is a union here, but there's a test. Have you mastered the energy of discernment? And I do feel there is communication coming. This to me is saying downloads from the higher realms, from the higher consciousness, from the spirit guides, from the angels above, about a new beginning. But I do feel there's a need to face where you felt foolish, because there's so much fear and resistance about taking that leap of faith and laying down a long-standing burden, because it's going to require truth. And the truth is what's going to unblock the path, but the truth is first going to hurt. And so first we need to get honest with ourselves. Then we have to bring forward the confession and get honest with those around us. And so I do feel, yes, there's acknowledgement of manipulative patterns, right? And we are all guilty of gaslighting somebody. None of us are perfect. And so this is going to open up the doorway for something new, to release this inertia, to release this stuckness in love, and to take that action towards a new cycle that's going to break free from the traditions that we are used to, because the twin flames are here to birth a new paradigm in love. So let's talk about the closing messages. And I did use the Dharma deck. I really felt called to use my Dharma deck today, because we hear about all of this karmic energy, karma, karma, karma. And on the other side of clearing all of the ancestral karma and the past life karma, we do step into the energy of Dharma. And so the card that came out is the card of obstacles, and it states, we should be conscious that hindrances and obstacles are almost sure to attack us, but we must deal with them with humility and forbearance. This life is not a life of comfort, right? And so let's face it, we don't grow, we don't change when things are comfortable. When we are stuck in our comfort zone, we're not growing, we're not evolving. And so obstacles and challenges create the pathway to our evolution. And when you think you've got to a certain level of evolution, then another series of challenges and obstacles will be presented, because if we don't face challenges, then we don't grow. Then we're always staying stuck. And so I loved that the bottom of the deck was the progress card. Below that, we get the humility card. And then one step further, we have the guide, and I'm going to stop at the ownership card. Maybe not. We got the guru after that. So I feel the progress card is saying we have to eliminate the past, or eliminate one cycle before accepting the next cycle. And so there is progress, but we have to eliminate something to move forward. The humility card is asking us to really be humble, right? The pathway of Christ consciousness, the pathway of Christ is to be humble. We have to be humble. We have to face humility to really be able to step into being a teacher, right? And so we have to kind of give up our worldly perceptions of what we thought our life was going to be. And it does ask us, I feel, to offer respect to others and to really expect nothing in return. And the guide, we all have the ability to be a guide for others. And I do feel we all are guiding each other home on this journey. And so I feel this has been a very long journey, and we need to recognize how far we've come, right? How much our faith has grown in separation, and that we all have the map to this union. And so have faith. Have faith that you are being guided to where it is that you need to go. But ultimately, the path is asking us to take ownership, right? And we can't point the finger, we can't project, we can't blame. We have to take ownership for where exactly we are, right? Because the universe controls the outcome. The universe owns the absolute of everything. But ownership really is asking us to accept the things that we've created, to accept the things that we can't change, and to not really take anything personally, right? Because we do know where we belong on this journey with the counterpart. So take that ownership. And then the Guru card, I will stop at the Guru. And so we all have pre-existing conditions connected to our family lineage, our bloodlines, our upbringings. We all have pre-conditioned blocks on the journey, and we do have to kind of go through the different phases of our life. A lot of us incarnate on different planets in different constellations. We do come from many starseed backgrounds. I know I mentioned Lyra, but I also feel, I use the Avalon deck, I feel, because of the connection to Atlantis and Andromeda. And so there comes a time where we do have to become the guru, but in order to do that, we have to descend into the shadow work, right? We have to descend into the darkness, into the shadows, which I feel is the representation of the hermit. And that's when our true spiritual life begins, right? When we go into doing this deep shadow work, right? And so ultimately, there are no enemies on the path. Everything will serve as a mirror. And that's not to say that like attracts like, because oftentimes we'll attract a mirror in the exact opposite of what we need, because we need to learn how to embody the opposite energy. But I do feel there is something here about abiding by the karmic law. And I feel we are on the pathway of really listening, like really take a step back and listen. What are your guides asking you to do? What hindrances are blocking your path forward towards the energy of joy? Where are you restricting yourself? Because the path is here. We just have to take ownership and we have to walk it. And a big part of the journey is accepting one another as we are. And that's kind of what I have for a message today. So if you would like to go further with me with a personal reading or a synastry chart reading or some coaching or some mentorship, check out the description box below. There you will find a link to my webpage, and keep your eyes peeled for the announcement for the new membership program that I will be launching very soon from my webpage. And it's going to be an astrology membership where we dig into how to utilize the knowledge of these transits to apply them to our life. We're going to start with the basics and we're going to build ourselves up with this membership. So stay tuned. I'm really excited about that. I will probably see you in a couple more days. We don't have any more culminating transits until October the 1st, but I'm really hoping the energy picks up so I can get back into doing zodiac sign messages. So stay tuned for that. Have a great day, everybody, and I will see you all again next time.